for a tree to establish itself, it takes a long time. It can sometimes be decades. So how do we know that it actually works?
Sometimes when you plant also trees, we always have to think not only because it works, also because it's beautiful to do it and makes me happy.
Because the problem of the last 15 years in all the region of Italy is too much light, too much sun, too much dry season, no water. And the shade can help you to maintain also a little bit more the water.
If I tell you, I plant tree, automatically you lose grape. It's not true. But mentally, psychologically, everybody think this.
Like in the past, poets, artists drink wine and talking about the beauty. So trees are the beauty, wine are a way for talking more.
The wine is the magic liquid who create connections. That's why we are here talking at the end. We talk about trees, but without wine, we weren't here.
Hi, everybody. This is Agnes from No Sediment, and welcome to a new episode of our discussion series, Talk Under the Wine. Today, I am back in Barolo, and our topic is agroforestry and how it can help to increase biodiversity in the vineyards and maybe even mitigate the effects of climate change. To discuss this very current topic, I have winemaker with a real-life experience, Enrico Rivetto. Hi.
Ciao. Ciao.
And an expert arborist and project manager of Tenuta di Castello di Grumello.
Perfect.
Stefano Lorenzi.
Yeah? Perfect.
Okay. Hi, how are you? Yeah. I will start with a very simple question. What is agroforestry? Or should I say vitiforestry? So what it is. Let's define it for the audience who do not
Know.
Stefano,
I think
okay.
I think that's your topic.
Agroforestry is a way to keep again in the vineyard bushes or trees, because in the past was in this way. Now after 20 or 30 years where the vigneron, the people working in the vineyard try to keep away the trees and the other species because they need more space for tractors, for have more efficiency in the working. Now it's time to do a step back and come back to have more biodiversity and more different areas in a system, because the vineyard is not the system. The vineyard is just part of the system. So we need to have in the vineyard and near the vineyard a more complex system. We need to have more species that can protect and help the vineyard to make all the process. That's why agroforestry or vitiforestry is a kind of collaboration between what we need, the vineyard, and what we need for have a very beautiful and efficient vineyard. So trees, flowers, fruits, animal, insects, and so on. That is agroforestry.
Do you have anything to?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we are talking about vitiforestry because we are in a wine region where the monoculture is very important in the sense that that's the area for wine. But the fact that it's the area for wine, for vines, and if we would like to keep the situation more healthy as possible for the future, we need two things. First of all, have the soil more alive and a perspective of life of the system longer as possible. And trees in the last 30 years, they were taken out, they were cut off to have more space for vineyards. I think we have to have back a balance, especially in the area where we are, in the Barolo region. So a balance between all the elements. I always say that this is kind of a basketball team or football team, It's a team. We cannot have only people who score the goals. We need also the people who are in defense. You need people, in the bench waiting. We need middle field, everything. So I think we have to rebuild an harmonic ecosystem. And in the case of the area where we are, in the Barolo region, we need to have back more trees that are cooperating with our vines.
So could you explain, do we plant the trees now? Do we introduce them like within the vineyard itself, or is it just around the perimeter, in the edges of the wine? Like, do you
I think that we can say both. We can say both, absolutely. Of course, our goal is maintain the vineyards and maintain an economic sustainable of the vineyard. So we have to produce enough grapes for make a good Barolo or other wine like in my region. But we have to do this, like Enrico said, in a very balancing way. So not too much vineyard, but we can plant inside the vineyard or near the vineyard. It depends. That's another point. We need competence. We need professional persons. We need people that know the vineyard and the trees, because we cannot plant every kind of trees inside the vineyard, because there is some problem to keep some trees in the vineyard. So we have decided together which is the perfect species for inside the vineyard or near the vineyard, for example.
What are the perfect species? Do you want to add something?
I want to just say something, Agnes, important. I can talk about, Stefano is talking more about he's a professionist on that, so he can explain you all the reasons. So at the beginning, when I started 17 years ago to plant trees in the middle of the vineyards, I have to say the truth, at the beginning I didn't know which species plants and where. At the beginning I was just trying to do something to change the situation. But I was planting more than 1,000 trees in the last 12 years. 1,000 trees. And I have to say that 25% died. So it's not so. My experience is that I understood that some species, first of all, you have to buy, when you plant, small size tree, which is something psychologically not nice, because we would like to see the trees growing fast. Immediately results. Yeah. Second, you have to find the right place. Some vineyards, maybe we need more trees because their exposure is south and we need to have more shade. And maybe we can plant more. But it depends on the type of tree that we plant. It depends also how we give water. If we have to give water, if you have the clay very compacted in the higher level. So there are millions of reasons why one tree is not growing well. Or I have to say, if some tree grow naturally, because sometimes it happens when you start to work in biodynamic and organic, it happens that in the middle of the vineyards, spontaneously one oak tree is growing. So this one is the best way. So we just keep it, we put a stick and say, don't touch. And he's growing without water because he's naturally grown. So he found the right situation to grow. So that's the best way, I think.
Okay.
And, that's, I think, according to my experience, it's not mathematic.
What do I do if that oak tree is growing in the most expensive vineyard, the grapes that I sell for the highest price, and I don't want to lose any vines there?
Because sometimes you don't lose. Because sometimes, for example, I think that Enrico can tell us, because I come from another wine region near the Lake of Iseo, so it's a different situation. But here, where we are in the Barolo region, the big problem in the last 10 years is there is too much sun, too much light, too much hot, too much dry season. So the shade is so important. Sometimes the vigneron lost a lot of the production for the sun, for the dehydration, dry season. So have some trees inside the vineyard can help you to have more shade, more fresh. The plants under the shade cone of the trees during the year, they have less light, so the grapes are more fresh. Increase the acidity. The alcohol is a little bit, the sugar is a little bit low down, so you have less alcohol. So in theory and in reality, if you can refresh a 20% or the 30% of your vineyard, maybe southwest, so very sun, you can have a better Barolo, or a better Barbaresco, or a better Valcalepio. Because the problem of the last 15 years in all the region of Italy is too much light, too much sun, too much dry season, no water. And the shade can help you to maintain also a little bit more the water. If you count the number of the trees of the vineyard under the shade of a tree, you can have 12, 15, 20. Imagine 10 years, 20 trees in an hectare. You can maybe refresh 500 plants of the grapes is a percentual on the entire amount of the plants. So you have a technical advantages by the shade, for example. So it's not a loss.
He said a fantastic thing. It's a psychological and mental problem. So he explained that it's effective. But if I tell you, I plant tree, automatically you lose grape. It's not true. But mentally, psychologically, everybody think this. But as Stefano said, sometimes in some vintage, exactly the opposite.
I have one more question. So when we do introduce these trees in the vineyards, do we also think about introducing like bird's nest or bat nest? Like, is it all together, or just you think about the trees, you plant them, and then you hope for the animals to come?
You can like Enrico do, puts the nest in the trees, but if you plant the right trees, the right bushes, the right flower, in a couple of spring, because I don't say years, but spring, you have everything. You have to know not only the trees, but also the animals.
Now, you said that I put the nest, is true, but it was a mistake.
Okay, why?
Because the nest attract wasps and hornets. Okay. That's what I discovered, because it's nice to have the nest, but Stefano is totally right. You don't need to build a house for a bird. If you plant a tree, the bird is coming. So I realized that I was thinking to do a good thing, doing all this kind of fantastic house.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely not
because you have to know very well the system. For example, some birds, I don't know the name in English, the name in Italian is Averla piccola, is a little bird, but she is a butcheress because kill little animals, and she needs the spikes in the bushes because she put the meat on the spikes,
really?
Aging. So
gourmet.
Yes, yeah. She need, for example, little bushes with long spikes, and if you don't have, she goes away. So you need to know the ecosystem.
Sorry, you said about trees, but we also plant trees and bushes.
Bushes.
So not only trees. So we have also something, smaller, like, I don't know, lavender or hip roses or rosemary. So there are also attracting different small animals like lizards, like small snakes, like all
hedgehogs.
Because once again, you have to know the system. So, for example, there is different level of height in biodiversity. Some animals want little bushes. Some animals need a little bit more height. For example, some bats, some spiders, some other animals need a tree. Some animals need the bushes. And plus, you have to know the aging of flowering. For example, rosemary is flowering in January. So it's perfect because there is no any flowers. Ivy flowers in January. Some bushes flower in February, some in March, April, May. You need to have for all the year food for the bees and other insects and for animals and so on, and color. Also the color are so important because, for example, after the winter, all the flowers in the early spring are yellow. Why? Because bees and the other insects recognize after the winters the yellow. So you need to have yellow flower in February. This is so important because when they rewake after the winter, they recognize the yellow. After you need the white and the blue, but before you need the yellow, for example.
I did not know that. That's so
Agnes,
interesting.
I tell you another thing that we discovered recently, and I was talking to him this morning. We were planting a new bushes called Perovskia, which is a Siberian sage.
Okay.
That it's grow in the north, but it's very rustic. And we are monitoring every year. We have the University of Torino who is coming here with the ladies who are going to monitor the butterflies, bees, etc. And on these 300 meters of Siberian sage that we planted, we have to multiply per 10 in comparison to the other years, the number of bees, bumblebees, and in general the bees families.
Yeah.
10 times more than a rosemary, 10 times more than a regular sage. So it's something unbelievable. And bumblebees are also very important. More important because the bumblebees are impollinating 5 times more than regular bees.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So nobody cares about the bumblebees because it doesn't produce honey for us, so we don't care. But are very important.
Yeah.
So this one is create a system. In biodynamic, the bees is an element to bring the light and the life in somehow. But I think it's very important for the pollination, but it's bringing back life to the system. That's what I feel. The colors also are very important.
Yeah.
But that's the system that we try to rebuild because we ruined this one in the past.
Oh, that's true.
In the short past.
Yeah. So what species we usually want to plant within the vineyard and what species are maybe we avoiding to plant?
Good question. Good questions, but you let me answer.
No, it's a good question. No, it depends of the area where you are.
yeah,
Of course.
Here I can say.
I will speak about Piemonte a bit later, more specifically.
Okay. You are talking in general.
Yes, in general.
First of all, of course, you have to see where you are, because I'm a consultant for a lot of companies around Italy. And yes, it depends. If I go in Sicily, I have to manage the species in Sicily, and if I go in Barolo region. But you have to know very well the vineyard system, and me and Enrico, because we do the same job in the vineyard, we know. So you have to avoid some trees that are a little bit more aggressive, for example, in a root system or in the canopy. You have to avoid, for example, the species selected for the gardening, because they are too weak, they are too not...
Diva?
They are a little bit diva, so sometimes they have disease that we don't need. You have to have some species more strong, like wild apple, wild pear, or for example, I don't like very much the peach. The peach, because in Italy, I don't know everywhere, but in Italy, the nursery have selected species of peach too weak. So I prefer, for example, the mandorlo in English.
Almonds.
The almonds, for example, because it's very strong, is very early blooming, and is very strong also during the season and in a dry season. So you have just to understood the aspect. This is this point of view, no? So you just to manage this.
Yeah, I agree with him, but I disagree in somehow in the fact that we need also something to eat.
Of course.
So something.
Yes.
Okay. We in according to our experience, we were planting a lot of trees in general, also blooming apple trees, wild cherry. But sometimes it's also nice to.
I'm agreeing.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing.
Also because when we are talking about agroforestation, it's an investment.
Yes.
Not only buying the plant, which I think is the lowest part, is take care of the plant. It's not enough plant and then you go to holiday. You have to plant and take care of the plant. So sometimes we need also to have fruits, for example, or try to think something different, to have back some money back from that, to be more sustainable in the winery. Because now we are in the Barolo region. I'm talking about my region, and of course the wine represents the financially the main part.
Yeah.
But of course, all the other parts of biodiversity, it's really no producing money. So we have to try a little bit to have back something, For example, here I found the apple. I have different species of apple that are not so bad, even if the apple is one of the fruit that is very treated. A lot of spray you need. But
in the industry of apple,
in general,
in Italy,
it's generally speaking.
But if you choose some more strong species, you can have beautiful apples for do everything. For example, in the company where I work, I start a project for make juice from apple. I selected some species of apple, very good for the juice, for make juice. You don't need to spray, and you can have a very good production. So in the next 5 years, we try to have enough product for make apple juice. So can be a side product of our wines, and you can have also an economical sustainable for your project. Because yes, like Enrico said, for the first 3 or 4 spring, if you plant a tree, you have to follow like an animal. Like if you have a dog, or if you have during the summer, you have to give water. If there is some problem, you have to prune for the first 4 or 5 years. After, he is self independent. But yes, for the first year, you have some investment to do. The investment start to getting more low after 2 or 3 years, but yes,
So the first 3 years are the most intensive.
in the first 3 years, yes. If you have a team like we have in the fields, you have to training the team, because they are very good maybe in the vineyard, but if there is a tree inside the vineyard and you pass with the tractor, you have just have a little bit more attention. So you lose a little bit more time. You have to focus on this. So you have training also.
Training the people, but for example, me like owner of a winery, I'm the first one who feel that I don't know everything about agriculture. We think to know everything about the viticulture, and we realize that we know 50% about viticulture and 0% about all the other culture. So that's why it's also something that in my process of evolving was one great motivation to understand in general the agriculture. Another thing I would like to tell you, also the planting of fruits, it's some requirements that my people, my workers, when we do the meetings, and I was asking to them, everything is okay, what do you think we can improve? And they look at me a little bit shy and say, okay, you are planting a lot of trees, but why you don't plant some fruit trees in the middle of the vineyards, fruit, so we can relax sometimes and eat an apple? And that was the reason why when my grandfather or great-grandfather was working in the fields, they were planting for this purpose, the apple and the peaches, because they want to eat and relax.
Yeah, of course, under the shade.
Under the shade.
I will just quickly ask a side question, because we are in Piemonte, and vine is not the only monoculture here. So we can have also like hazelnuts that are just, and if we go in the south, we have olive trees.
Olive trees.
So does this work also for the hazelnut? I don't know. Is hazelnut a tree or bush? Because it's
good question.
And like olive trees as well.
In the middle. Yes.
Yeah. So can you introduce like the agroforestry in these like plantations as well?
We have in my company also an cultivation of olive trees near the Lake of Iseo. And yes, I try to put other trees and other bushes inside the olive trees area, because it's the same concept. Also in the Castagna sativa, in the middle of Italy, there is a lot of chestnut, a lot of cultivation of this. In the past, they plant only chestnut, and the woods, the forest, getting more poor, getting not so in shape. If you put in the middle some other trees, you have more benefit. You have just to put in the right place, and you have just to make your evaluation about the working during the years. But yes, it's more simple, in an olive trees area than in a vineyard area, because in the olive trees area you enter less time than in a vineyard. But yes, it's the same benefit, because you are a system, an ecosystem. More the system is simple, more is dangerous. More the system is complicated, more is safe for the system.
Okay.
Because you have an open door. If you are a fungi, a mushroom, animals that want to eat my vineyard, is only vineyard, it's easy for you. I open the door and you eat everything. If you have other trees, maybe in that trees you have an enemy, or you can understand why the trees is different, and all the difficult of the vineyard, the fungi, mushrooms, animals have more difficult to enter in the system. The system is complicated.
If I want to attract certain species of animals, do I choose certain trees? Do I know, like, I will plant this specific tree and then the deer will come, or like that specific bird or owl will come? So and do I know specific trees that I can plant that will keep away certain animals? Like, do you have a knowledge of this? Is there some information?
Yes.
Have you noticed anything?
For example, if I have a vineyard and I want to keep away, for example, wild boars or deers, I can plant all out of the vineyards maybe some fruits apple, pear that I lost, just for give the food to the wild boar.
Okay, so they do not enter.
No, they do not enter, because the vineyard, they take the grapes in August, not because they want to eat, because they want to drink. Because, for example, Chardonnay in August or another white grapes is rich of water in a period that there is no water. But we can do not only planting, but, for example, make some action like Enrico done. For example, make some hole in the forest that can fill of water during the summer, so the wild boars stay there and not come in the vineyard, for example. Some people put some place for drinking for the animals in the forest.
We have a small creek, so that's not a big problem. We have a creek in the valley.
Yeah.
So, and you can see that there are a lot of wild boars there.
Okay.
It's so important to create the situation, because the wild boar and the deer and the other animals stay out of the vineyards.
I've seen more deer's problems, I have to say, than wild boar.
We have more wild boar and less deer.
I mean in terms of problems.
Yeah.
Because they are maybe eating you plant a tree, a new tree, very elastic, very gentle, and they eat it.
Yeah.
It's sweet.
Or also they bite the bark of the tree. Or sometimes it happens also when the grapes are really ripe. You see some grapes eaten. I know that, for example, in the center of Italy, that's a huge problem, because the forest are very, very, many hectares around the vineyards. So the forests are very strong. So I know that they have more problems in the center of Italy. So they have put fence all around.
Yes, I've seen.
Not only natural fence, but real fence.
For example, last year, me and my colleagues, we were in a Chianti region, in this very huge company, 700 hectares of forest and 200 hectares of vineyard. And they say, we have the problem because the deer and the wild boar jump the fence and come into... Yes, but why? Because they do the fence with no knowledge of the animal. For example, they do the fence at the base of a forest with this inclination. So the deer come down from the forest and jump very easily. If you put the fence just a little bit, 4 meters inside the vineyard, they have a flat part, so they can jump, first point. Second point, if you put the bushes inside or outside the fence, they don't see what there is after the fence, so they don't jump because they are scared. Or if you make a big hole after the fence, they don't jump because they feel the hole. So it's little tricks you can do You cannot clean all the forest, or you cannot manage all the forest. But with some tricks near your fence, you can make more efficient this fence, for example.
So next, I have maybe more provocative question. For a tree to establish itself, it takes a long time. It can sometimes be decades. So how do we know that it actually works?
Allora, how we know it actually works? First of all, I have to say two things. Sometimes when you plant also trees, we always have to think not only because it works, also because it's beautiful to do it and makes me happy. So we have not to forget this part. Sometimes they ask me, why you choose this tree? Sometimes because that's typical, because that's the best one. Sometimes I say, oh, because I like the color of the flowers. Who cares? I like it. What's the problem? Second thing, it's why we know it works. We know it works because if you leave one field without anything, just without grass, without anything, for 150 years approximately, and automatically the nature will let grow one forest. That's the nature. That's the perfect system. That's the perfect balance of a system is the forest. So with the agriculture, that it's human. Without the human being, the agriculture couldn't exist. So we have to find a way of balance between the nature and the human being. In this process, the trees are extremely important. So why I know it works? Because the trees and the idea of the forest is the perfect balance of the nature. And the nature is strictly regulated with the universe, strictly regulated with what is in the universe. So we are in the middle, we are positioning in the middle, and we are here to understand how it works. And the goal is to find the right balance between our requirements and the nature. So that's why I'm sure it works. I don't know if I answer.
And I can add another concept. It's not true that you need too much time for see if it works, because if I plant an almond tree today, in March 2026, 6 months, I have the first flower. So it's just the first benefit, beauty and flower. After 2 months, I have the fruits, so it's another benefit. The roots start to explore the ground, so it's the third benefit. So you need just 1 spring, 2 spring, 3 spring for have some benefits. So it's not too much time. Sometimes when you plant or you do a project not in the agriculture, in the world, you need more time for see if you are right or wrong. When you plant the trees, like Enrico said, in the first minute you plant the tree, you are happy and you are sure to do something, not for you, but for the others. So it's, my opinion, is the first goal you have.
Okay. So I will start to put out some scenarios that maybe might scare people or think about, like what would be the cons of this practice. So could there be a scenario that tree establishes itself and is so much dominates the land that we actually have to take it away from the vine, that it is just starting to disturb the vineyard?
In my opinion, no, because during the life of the trees, you can manage, you can prune, you can
regulate,
leave each other. One thing is important to say. It's more simple in agroforestry. Start together, vineyards and trees.
Okay.
Instead of I arrive in a vineyard in Barolo of 70 years, I have to put trees and bushes inside the vineyard. That is more difficult because the vineyard have the space, the tractor have made the route, so you have to put the trees in a place where doesn't make obstacle to anything, and plus the new trees you put for 3 or 5 springs is a little bit more weak than the plants of the vineyard, so you have to assist. It's not so simple. If you plant vineyard and trees together, baby, it's perfect.
I totally agree, and I have to say that we have a new vineyard called Vigna San Rocco, which is a new vineyard that we bought 4 years ago. And it's like experimental vineyard where we have a very high density of biodiversity in this 4,000 square meters. And when you plant from the beginning and you plant vines, we were planting small aromatic herbs, bushes between one vine and another vine, and trees, and you plant all together, it's a big difference. Like Stefano said, that when you have a vineyard of 40 years and you have to go and plant in the middle trees, the potential problems are decuplicated.
You have more work to do. That's vineyard. I told in the Barolo area is called the crazy vineyard because there is, and I love that's vineyard because it's the perfect situation. New vineyard, new little aromatic plants, new trees. It's perfect. And after 5 years, you can see the balancing. Maybe if you ask to Enrico, in the first 2 years, some work.
More work. You have the
more
first
work,
3 years.
yes.
It's not.
But now starting to be harmonic and balancing. And when you pass now near the road, near the street, you have the beauty and you feel the balancing.
And there's also one thing that we never talk about that is that you have to be a little lucky also. Because sometimes you make a plantation and you have a good weather, so it's raining in the right moment.
Yeah.
It's solved many problems. Or like he said before, this morning we were talking, 2003. Of course, it gives, 2003 here was extremely dry. So it can change everything, that vintage.
But this happens also when you change a vineyard. Like in 2022, in my company, we lost the 70% of the new plants with plants in 2021. Because the 2022 in the north of Italy was very dry. It's a long summer season, very high temperature. The little vineyards I put in the middle of the vineyards, I don't know they call in English the new plants. You fill the hole I lost the 70% because you can go with the tractor and give the water, but you have no time. You have to go.
But even if you give, it is not anyway automatic that they will survive.
In the 2023, 2024, we lost 0% because the spring was long and wet. It depends.
It always depends.
So the lucky factor is also
it's also important.
Business.
Yeah. So, but in your new vineyard, do you have a training system, or they're just
what
kind
is
of
a training system?
like the
Training? So you mean
training?
The wires.
Training.
The wires.
Yeah, the training
wires,
system.
okay.
No.
I have one vineyard in Bordeaux, and they created this experimental vineyard as well, where it is just single pot, like single vines with no no wires to train.
We call trees, vineyard trees.
And then also like a lot of
l'alberello.
Yeah, also like different
we in that
trees
vineyard
and
there are regular vineyards.
Okay. It's
Also
just
because the bushes they stay lower and the trees, the real tree, the big trees, they are going up. So it doesn't change anything in that sense.
But also, for example, the aromatics, little plants, he put in the base of the vineyard. For example, they don't need so much water. That is a very good thing to understood. So he choose the right plants for the right goal.
Mm-hmm.
If he puts down some species, maybe more flower, more diva, as you said, you lost. If you choose the right species for the right goal, you have a low percentage of no success.
This is something that I find it really interesting, and I think it's important to maybe say it and accentuate it again, because a lot of winemakers who I talk with about cover crop, about introducing other species into the vineyard, they say, no, it's too dry. It's completely too dry for us. We cannot afford it because water is a scarcity. But then there are winemakers who I talk with who have done it, and they say it's the opposite. They have less stress when you have more species in.
First thing, very important, it depends what type of soil you have.
Okay.
We have a very strong presence of clay, calcium carbonate, but a lot of clay. And clay absorbs and keeps a lot of water. Our problem is the compaction of the soil. So the fact that we have, grass like alfalfa, for example, alfalfa opened the soil.
It's strong.
It's open and give us, of course, nitrogen.
That's by the root system.
The root system.
For example, I don't know the name in English, the tarassaco, the yellow flower.
The dandelion.
Okay.
Dandelion.
Yeah.
How you say
It has a very root system going deep. Deep. When it died in winter, this channel is a very good thing for give air to under soil. For example, you have to choose the plants, the grasses for the root system, for the canopy, for all things.
But if you have a live soil, rich of microorganisms, it doesn't matter what type of soil you have. You have a live soil. I have to say that the clay soil, I think it's very important, especially useful in the area where you have less water, because absorbent keeps a lot of water.
Yeah.
So we have sometimes the opposite problems.
So could there be some risks of diseases then with trees?
Less risk or more risk?
More risk. Because of course, we understand that some, wines get diseases. We talk about ESCA, and other things. So of course they can be passed down, as well between species. So
of course you have to see in Italy, for example, there is the region law in Piedmont, in Lombardy, in Veneto. There is some species you cannot plant. For example, Ailanthus altissima is a species from the Far East. Is very bad because this kind of trees is so fast in growing, is so
that can take place.
Take place, so it destroys the biodiversity. So you cannot plant. Or for example, Vitalba is a climbing trees, is avoided in Piedmont for the flavescenza of other things. But you have to know. Yeah, of course, I don't plant other trees in the middle of the vineyard because I know there is some animals or species it can attack my vineyard. It depends, of course.
But in terms of fungus, for example, because mentally, psychologically, they say you plant tree, shade, no lights, humidity, fungus.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like this. So of course we don't put it's not like this. I tell you one evident example of what it happens this year that I think it's something unbelievable, but if you think it's regular. This year there was a problem like it used to be in the past, the problem of one small butterfly called tignola, I don't know the translation, who is stinging the grapes. Mm-hmm. July, August, they do 2-3 times the eggs and they are small butterflies and they stings the grapes.
The grapes.
We were monitoring, and that was again back this butterfly this year. After 7-8 years, there was no problem. This year, everywhere in the Langhe, they started to have this problem. So spraying was organic, spraying organic with conventional. We were monitoring these butterflies here. We couldn't find very small problems, very small. So we were not spraying against this butterfly.
So your vineyard didn't have it?
And I said, yes, at the entire hill.
The Lerano hill?
Yes. In Serralunga, there was the problem because I said, okay, let's take the data. If there was no problem in Serralunga, so it means that's a macro area.
Yeah.
Only here. So we were not spraying. And everybody asked me, why? I cannot tell you mathematically, but I think that this system, after 17 years of works, it starts to work. Mm-hmm. It starts to become in harmony. It starts to become in relation and cooperation. So probably, like Stefano said before, there was something who eat this butterfly. Can be bats, can be other small birds.
Or maybe there is an average temperature, an average
probably
humidity,
also this one.
an average things, climatic things that the Tignola doesn't like, for example. And yes, it's the base is a very good knowledge of the system, of the trees, of the vineyard, of the soil. Because, for example, 2 years ago, I spoke with Switzerland vignerons, and he was very proud to fill all his vineyard, 1 hectare, with 30 nuts, not hazelnut, the regular nuts.
Walnuts.
Walnuts. The regular nuts is not so good for the vineyard because the trees during his life give down some substance, some essential
Toxins,
oil,
kind of toxins.
toxic for the other trees. So it was not the smartest solution. And I told him, and he was very
Devastating. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, because the walnut, we say also in our dialect that where the walnuts grow, nobody else grow around the walnuts, because it's like isolated.
And you have to know these things.
If you plant 30 walnuts,
of course,
in
if
an
you
hectare,
plant one, maybe who cares?
one is
It's also part of
very little damage because maybe you have 5 or 4 vineyards weak, but if you plant 30 walnut in an hectare, you can have a problem. So that is the base: knowledge, collaboration within arborist and the vigneron, and yes.
So that's really important. I just cannot come and say, oh, I want to have more diversity in my vineyard, and I will just plant whatever because I like walnut trees, and then tuk tuk tuk.
Yes,
No, you can do it also. It depends if it's your garden, there's no problem.
Yeah.
Who cares? But if you
or
have,
also the density. I with my friend, there was a very young vigneron in the middle of Italy. I was so proud to show us that in half an hectare he planted so many trees. And my friend said, but you want to produce wine or not?
because, maybe he wants to produce some.
Because sometimes you have to, yes, the trees are good, but you have to continue to produce your
Because
wine.
it is agriculture. So we have to find the balance.
Yeah.
Balance we were talking about before.
So let's talk about the balance, because planting trees, we spoke about that, and it requires a certain investment. So first is the initial investment, and then it is like the work that you have to do. So it might make sense for a Barolo, a premium price wine, but I just came from Cava, and they sell, this year they told that the price for 1 kilo of Cava grapes is like 55 cents or 60 cents. So like what would be the motivation for them, for the like entry-level price category wines to go for this investment as well?
I mean,
No.
okay.
Because I come from an entry-level zone, so I can not so entry-level like maybe Cava this year.
So you can answer what happens
A little bit more entry-level of Barolo. So the Val Calepio area where I come from is near the Lake of Iseo and the Lake of Como. Is a very beautiful place for wines, red wines, Bordelais style, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, but it's not so high price like the Prince of Barolo. And I start also with my property, the agroforestation program. So the motivation, first of all, Enrico said before, the beauty. The beauty, because it's so important also to keep the person inside the vineyard. The beauty and the raising down the cost sometimes after 5 years. I'm sure that if the system is like Enrico said, in an average, is balancing, we can spray a little bit more. We can have some saving money from manage the vineyard. We can have better grape in the dry season, where, for example, in 2022, I lost the 30% of production. Mm-hmm. So the motivation are multiple, but the first could be the beauty, the diversity of the landscape. So the people comes in our area, near the lake, on the hills, because sometimes the vineyard for the people are boring. In July, if you put a tourist, in a Serra Lunga medium winery, medium vineyard, you died by the sun. If you have some area with the shade, maybe with a seat, maybe make with a trunk and you speak about the vineyard, it's better. The enoturism is so important now in Italy. So one motivation could be this.
I give you another motivation. I try to be a little bit, put higher the level of this speech, which is, I think that's creating beauty. He says something unbelievable important. Creating beauty. In Italy, we were famous in the last 2,000 years, even more, to create beauty. With the Renaissance, with the Romana, with all the painting, the structure that we had, the sculpture, everything. So the beauty creates one frequency. A plant, a tree, is a frequency. How many people are going to, when they're stressed from the city center, we go and have a walk in the wood, in the forest, because we have to relax. Why? Because the frequency of the wood affect our frequency of our heart, of how we stay. So we don't talk too much about the frequencies, but I think in the future will be this one, very important. So planting one tree is planting balancing frequencies for the people. So the beauty is connected with this. Second, you don't have to plant 800 trees every year. You can also plant 2 trees or keep the spontaneous trees that are growing naturally. But if you mentally, you know, and you say, oh, look, that's an oak tree which is growing, that's protected. It costs 0. Mm-hmm. Just one stick that you put in the ground and just put a small rope and say, hey, don't touch, please. It's not a big cost. But even if you plant 10 trees per year, it's what is the cost of 10 trees per year? You are spending in one night in a restaurant.
That is important points, because another thing is to understand with the trees, if you need patience and times, of course, but you cannot do the solution in one time.
No, of course.
I cannot agroforestry a vineyard in one time. I need 2 or 3 years, 10 trees this year.
I think it's not intelligent to do in 1 year.
No.
It's even not intelligent for the system.
No. Also, when you're pruning, sometimes, because I come from the arborist world, right? For the 30 years I was an arborist. Sometimes the customer asks me, you have to cut down this tree in 5 meters. Okay, we can do, but in 5 years, not in one time. If you do it one time, I stress the tree. If the first time I cut half a meter, after 2 years I cut another meter, after 2 years I cut another half a meter, we can reach the goal, but in 5 years. And the same in agroforestry. If Enrico call me here and say, I want to agroforestry this hectare, okay, of course. Okay, we make a plan for the next 5 years. We start with 10 trees, second year other 15 trees. He said, this year I have the problem with that trees because it's not in the right position. Okay, we can move or we can prune. Okay, other 10 trees and so on. Is a program, is a life project, is a life together, know each other and live together.
No, can I tell you something? I'm sorry if...
Sure.
The first time I met Stefano, I was really impressed because he came here because he wanted to know what was the process and what I was doing here. And so I said to him, look, you should tell me because you are a real professional. But that's the real humble and intelligent way of thinking. I don't know. How is he competent? It's very high. But he knows that you have to know the territory first. So he observed. He was coming in and observed everything. So that's helped me and teach me that it's not mathematics and you have to study first the territories and the experience of other people. Sharing this experience, it's making the difference. So if I put my experience, his knowledge, and easy. But it's not something that you have to, it's not automatic in the consultant world. That's why we are on the same frequency like the woods.
Yes. You know what my dream? My dream is that an area like Valcalepio, Langhe, or Montalcino, the vignerons collaborate together. Because one vigneron is drops in the ocean, but like in the hills of Serralunga, if 3 or 4 big vineyard together start to collaborate, could be a very good change for all the north of Italy or the wine world in Italy.
Is there some help from the government or EU, like some
You know what? Sometimes
supporting system?
you have some obstacle.
Bravo. I was saying the same thing.
For example, in the OCG, so like Barolo, Moscato d'Asti, Brunello di Montalcino, if you have some trees in your hectares, they can class down your hectare.
No.
You have to demonstrate that you can, you don't have money from that tree. So you don't growing for another cultivation. So you have to demonstrate that your first income is the wine.
It's rare, but it happens.
That's odd.
It happened in the past. Cascina degli Ulivi, for example, I say the name because he was like, it's in Alessandria area, and this area. At that time, it was declassifying part of the grape.
Because
He planted too many trees.
Okay.
That's it.
I know that is.
You know,
So you do not you do not only don't have support from the government, you can actually have obstacles, as you said. Yeah.
now, to be honest with
Now
you,
it's
now there
changing.
is some program of the government more regionally. For example, Emilia-Romagna is a region in the middle north of Italy, under the Lombardy, have a very beautiful program for the agriculture company and give trees for free if you want to plant in your area. There is a very good big regional nursery program, very good. I work with a company over there and it's very good.
Here they help for the truffle,
For example,
for implementing the truffle forest.
That's the most
Something.
expensive thing.
Yeah, because it's connected with the truffle, not is connected for the biodiversity.
Yeah, because
No,
that's the
it's,
most
yes.
expensive.
You know, it's that's why I can. If you want to use this kind of funds, you have to plant only the trees that they are in the list of the trees for truffle. If
It's
I want,
not-
it's not okay. I mean, it's
it's
better
not
than
few
nothing. Of
trees,
course.
it's better than nothing.
No,
You
of
have
course.
quercus, you have salix, you
Of
have
course,
quillia,
absolutely.
you have hazelnut, you have some trees. Yes, but yes, it's a second way for which a
But it's
goal.
okay. I mean, the results it's better than
Than
before.
nothing.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, small steps. So one thing. So majority of vines, of course, are mechanized. You know, at some way or another. So how does introducing these trees and bushes in the middle of the vineyard maybe create obstacles for mechanization or?
If the trees can be an obstacle, you just know the territory and the vineyard. And you have to speak with the vigneron and say where we can put. And for example, here it's better to put half an meter here because when I turn with my machine, I can touch the trees. It's a little details. And after with pruning, and after choosing the species, right? Maybe in the middle of the vineyard, I choose the species that have the canopy a little bit more high. I can prune a little bit. The tractor are not so high, especially, for example, in Enrico area, they are not so big. So
We have a vineyard, for example, this one of San Rocco, that we decided to don't go with the machines,
Okay.
but we can do for 4,000 square meters. If I
So
go
there would
on
be all
full-
pruning and harvesting, like nothing
okay,
with machine, no
harvesting-
spraying.
pruning is already,
Pruning is already by
Yeah.
hand.
I'm talking about spraying because the
Spraying.
main issue is spraying. 15, 18 times you have to go in the fields to spray. So it's compacting and going. So in this vineyard, we don't go with the tractors, but we can do for 4,000 meters. We cannot go for 14 hectares.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's not thinkable to do it in this way. Also,
Do trees impact, like, or the agroforestry, like the trees and bushes that you plant inside, do they impact also the spray coverage?
No, because the canopy usually are more
higher,
high.
yeah.
You have to choose the right species because some species are more sensible to ramezol for, I don't know.
copper and sulfur.
So you, for example,
sensitive on copper.
almond is so perfect because when you start with these two elements, the leaves of the almonds are already done, are big, so it's no problem. If you put an apricot, for example, you have to be very accurate. You don't put near where they spray, because the little leaves in the beginning of the spring are more sensible. So
that's a good thing, because sometimes when you put some, or pears, for example, that are sensitive on sulfur, you have to pay attention. If you put some trees that are sensitive on copper or sulfur, in that specific moment, it can burn or can, so.
You maybe you lost the season, you lost the beauty. So it's stupid. It's better to choose the right.
Don't die, the tree.
No, don't die. But you have yes, and so it's.
So with the copper sprays, we now know that it actually accumulates in the soil. So are there some trees that maybe can, reduce its accumulation or kind of...
Can I answer to this question? No. Because this things of accumulation of copper is something that it's not so true.
Okay.
Because the copper, we use copper since it exists the viticulture in before in the 1840 they were already spraying with copper. So if there is a real accumulation now, there will be more copper than clay.
Okay.
It's not totally true. If you have a good structure of the soil, so if the soil is alive, the copper is chelatizzato. I don't know how to explain in English, but it was metabolized.
Okay, by with organisms.
Exactly. So the fact that we use copper, and especially in biodynamic farming, we are less than 3 kilo per hectare, which is nothing. But anyway, this issue is because in the organic you can use only copper. Yeah. If you have a healthy soil, you don't have accumulation. We do analysis, we don't have this problem. But why we don't talk about the systemics accumulation, the systemics products that they spray in the vine and stay in the vine and going in the wine? Nobody talks about that. They put the finger on the organic because they use copper, and because it's the only one thing that you can put the finger. But the results of the analysis is exactly opposite.
Okay, that's interesting. I just met one winemaker in Portugal, and he said that he's looking for ways to cut out copper, like altogether.
Everybody wants.
But he's also biodynamic and organic.
Cut a little bit copper, of course. But yes, what Enrico said is true. If you have a good soil, a good system, the copper is metabolized by the system. Okay. Of course, if you have just a monoculture with a fertilized soil, it's not alive, could be some accumulation, yes. But it's different point of view.
It's building an organism. It's not I plant this tree and I solve the problem. It's a system. Always we talk about system, organism.
Yeah, okay. So we are almost at the end. Just maybe you can add some real life experience. What trees you would wish to plant now more that you, if you knew, 17 years ago, and maybe which ones you would definitely not plant?
Good question. What I plant, it's, I think, oak trees.
Oak trees? Those grow slowly, no?
I mean, my favorite tree is the birch trees.
Okay.
That you have a lot in
Latvia. It's everywhere.
I planted 3-4 because I like it, but it's not exactly the right area to plant birches. But I like this bark, very white, and is also connected with the moon. Is connected with the feminine part. So I like a lot this thing. But oak trees are a guarantee.
Okay.
In this area,
stability, guarantee, and also represent the determination. If you check also on the you say the meaning of the trees, it was always used the oak tree stabilize a system.
For sure, it doesn't put the bird house.
No, exactly. This is the problem.
Yeah. Exactly. Is there some question that you wish I asked and maybe I didn't?
No, you were perfect.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Why you do it?
What?
Why you do? You know, if I were you, I said,
okay.
why you do it?
Why you do
Stefano,
it?
no. Ask to Stefano.
Stefano, why you do
why
it?
You do it? Why you decide to do this?
Is
in
it like
your
an
place?
inner need, you know, to be part of the ecosystem, the
First
life?
of all, because it's my passion. Trees is my passion. Until when I was 18, start to be in my life. When I start to be part of the wine world, I understood that the wood is a part of the wine world, from the barrels to the roots to the leaves of the vineyard. So I try to put my experience in the wine world. I learn a lot from the wine world, of course, but why I do? Because I like it. Because it's my passion, because it's one of the most transversal culture, the wine and the trees, connecting people in the history, in the social part, in the socializing, like in the past, poets, artists drink wine and talking about the beauty. So trees are the beauty, wine are a way for talking more.
The wine is the magic liquid who create connections. That's why we are here talking at the end. We talk about trees, but without wine, we weren't here.
That's a point after we're talking about Enrico, no wine, but we can solve this.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you very much, Enrico. I'm really sorry, but I know you have it already.
Okay.
So I just wanted to. Okay. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming to our podcast, and so maybe next time you do some pruning, you can shade yourself a little bit from the sun. I think this was it was just so interesting and so amazing for me, a Latvian, who are really connected with their land. I think as a people and country, like we have a saying that every man has to plant a oak tree.
Vedi?
Yeah, like because like every man, to be like a proper man, like real man,
Stefano,
you have to plant
you
an
have to
oak
plant
tree.
a tree.
Yeah.
I have planted many oak trees.
Yeah. So that's really important. This was like really interesting. It was really interesting for myself as well. So thank you for your time. And,
Thanks to you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think
Thanks
it was
to you.
good.